I don't want to be the guy who says the Joker, right, as the first one, but you really can't. There's sometimes where things, the punk rock in me wants to bristle against the idea that, like, the one that everybody's going to say can't be the one, but it really is. I mean, it's one of the greatest, like, evil guys you cheer for in all of, I think, in the American literary canon. Like, I don't, it's a character that has stood the test of time for so long and so many people love. You know, it's very hard to have a villain that people love like that people want to wear the shirts and the hats and everything to represent the person who literally is a murderer, you know, in the books and in every representation. And a lot of that comes with how the character's been represented. For many people of my age group and generation, Mark Hamill's voice and the way that it was done in Batman the Animated Series was such a way in on that character, and people just fell in love with it. Obviously, The Killing Joke made a huge impact on the comic book community with the character, but it's a fantastic. I mean, we can look up on the wall, and I'm sure it wouldn't take me long to find Joker memorabilia and stuff, and it's very, you don't really see that. I mean, you don't see people wearing Lex Luthor T-shirts. You know, you don't see a lot of the other big bads for the other, particularly DC characters that have that level of fandom. People just obsessively love them. And then obviously the recent iterations in films have given an opportunity for people to dress up and do the cosplay and everything else. But yeah, those are, I mean, you'd be very hard pressed to beat that. I like Two-Face quite a bit. I can't remember the book, but I was thinking about it the other day, and maybe it was in the animated series. There's a moment where it's when he gets fixed, his face gets fixed entirely, and then it flashes and you see the way he sees himself, which is that both sides of his face are scarred, even though his face is now totally fixed. And that's always made an impact on me. The idea that this character has a deformity, and kind of it takes a really good person who, you know, Harvey Dent is this character that helps Gotham and is kind of you know, all about the law, and he's a prosecutor and everything, and then he just turns so bad so quickly. And then when you start to see into the psyche in that capacity, it helps you understand how somebody might get to that point. So I've always liked that character. It's kind of an underrated character. And I was happy to see that it was you know, utilized in a film in a way that wasn't mockingly. You know, not to say that Batman Forever isn't a fantastic movie, but it was nice to see that. I'm trying to think of any from, well, you know what, I'll put it this way. I know he isn't a villain, but he turned into one, and I enjoyed it so much when I was a kid. And we talked about Azrael before and Jean-Paul Valley. I loved that storyline when he becomes Batman's adversary, and he doesn't want to give up the suit, and he's saying he is Batman. And I love the idea of having, you know, people love that Spider-Man meme of the two Spider-Men pointing at each other. It was kind of like that in Batman, where you've got Batman in traditional suit and Bruce Wayne's back, and you're cheering for him because this is the Batman you love. And then you've got this other guy who's this mercenary who doesn't want to let the suit go, and they have huge fights that go on for books and books of these two fighting, and all of a sudden, you know, it ends with Batman coming through on the other side and Bruce Wayne remaining the Batman. The other part of that that's fun is that you have Dick Grayson take on the cape and cowl and be Batman, because Batman's not ready to do that yet. That's the first time I think we really saw that. So even though it's not a traditional villain, he certainly turned into a villain, and unfortunately was underutilized. You never saw Jean-Paul again in that way. They turned him into his own kind of anti-hero and had the Azrael books and his own kind of comics, and I liked that, but I wish I could have seen him more as the adversary to Batman. I like the Riddler quite a bit, particularly because we talked about Hush, and I love a character that is this manipulator and it can orchestrate all these things. And again, there's a lot of times where the comic book representations of the characters have shown so much more of an intellectual side than some of the film representations. You know, you don't always see the Riddler represented in that way, where he really is so often building these mind puzzles. And one of the things I like about Batman as a character is that he's a detective, and we don't get to see that as often in some capacities. So it's fun to have a character that requires him to use his intellectual prowess and to solve things. And obviously the Hush storyline is kind of that on steroids. I'm gonna go with Man-Bat. And for no other reason than I thought he was the coolest villain when I was a kid. There's not many great Man-Bat stories that I know about. I'm sure that somebody watching this will tell me that I'm a fool and that there's so many great Man-Bat stories. But I am not aware of too many fantastic Man-Bat stories. I did like, you know what I think? What was the episode? There was a Batman the Animated Series episode. I think it was called On Leather Wings. And it impacted me so much that I called the first Black Veil tour the On Leather Wings tour. And people don't necessarily know that. The first headline tour we ever did was called the On Leather Wings tour because of that episode, because I thought it was so interesting. The idea of, well, this guy took it to a whole different level. And, you know, you've got your Batman character, the guy who dresses like a bat. Well, this guy literally became a bat. So yeah, that'll be my number 5. And a little Black Veil factoid for everybody.